We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And we're back with Liberty Nation's longtime host of this here radio show, Tim Donner. We've been discussing Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, Ron DeSantis, and Donald Trump all being in for the GOP primary. Tim, I want to continue the conversation we're having. Do you think, you certainly wrote about this in a recent column on libertynation.com, that you think maybe that Tim Scott's pushing for a vice presidential run here rather than a presidential run, right? And I think Donald Trump's response to Tim Scott entering the race, the positivity surrounding it, talking about how they've done some great work together, I think that kind of bolsters your point, doesn't it?
Well, yes, because look, anybody entering the race at this point is good for Trump, bad for DeSantis. It's just pretty much that simple, which is why Trump had nice things to say about Nikki Haley, about Tim Scott, welcoming them to the race, saying they're nice, good people, all of this stuff, so that he can encourage, come on in, the water's fine. And then it just divides the
Said the spider to the fly.
Vote. Yeah, exactly. Yes, precisely. And so a divided field, a large field, clearly benefits Trump. And I'm sure DeSantis, if he had his choice, would rather go mano a mano, one-on-one with Trump instead of having to fend off all these other pesky challengers to his status as the clear number two choice.
Yeah, I think that's really the heart of the matter, Tim. So you have other candidates, not including DeSantis or Trump. Now, Trump's being very open to them, very welcoming to them. So they're going to be faced with a choice. Do they turn around and throw his kindness, let's call it, back in Trump's face and then alienate themselves from the Trump base, which really is the driving base in the Republican Party? Or do they go along with Trump and just say, I think, as they would say, I think Trump's great, but we need to kind of move in my direction more so. So it's still supportive of Trump, but that's really blocking DeSantis from a range of potential primary wins, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, look, DeSantis is looking to get his sea legs. I think he thought he wouldn't face this much vitriol before he even entered the campaign in the run-up to his Twitter announcement, which, of course, was, I think, a very clever way to unveil a campaign where he's trying to do something new, trying to draw attention, trying to do something to show that he's not just Trump light or Trump the second. He has to distinguish himself some way. And yet his problem is that people want Trumpism. They may not want Trump, but they want Trumpism. That's clear throughout the Republican Party. It's a dominant theme. So DeSantis faces all manner of problems. But here's the thing, Mark, when you come right down to it, the obvious ticket, it seems, for Republicans would be Trump and DeSantis. And I think that everybody in the country except two people would like to see that among Republicans. And those are Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, although DeSantis might be happy to take number two on the ticket, knowing that Trump can only serve 4 years and he can serve 8 following the 4 of Trump. But of course, there's so many variables in that. But DeSantis has tried to begin the narrative on how he can serve 8 years and Trump can only serve 4, which turns him into a lame duck as soon as he would be elected.
Yeah, of course, if it weren't about egos, they would both be saying, well, here's 12 years for you.
Yes, now, precisely.
There's something...
It's not to say that they might not still do that.
Sure.
That's possible. But I don't think Governor DeSanctimonious is taking kindly to being insulted by Donald Trump constantly that might just turn him off and say, to hell with it. I'll wait and see for 2028 or 32.
Yeah, he has a really good opportunity in Florida to kind of compound the win that he made and turn that into something that, well, I guess as he likes to put it, it's almost a model for the nation. Something I've noticed in the media, Tim, this week, I've been, I like to count news stories above the fold on the digital sites to see, where the zeitgeist kind of going. And what I noticed was, for example, the New York Times, they had a string of articles about Ron DeSantis on one day this week. 2 stories about Trump and nothing about Biden. Now, that kind of makes me think that the let's call them the legacy media, the activist media, they think that Ron DeSantis might be more of a threat than Donald Trump. What do you think? To Joe Biden, I mean.
He has been seen clearly as a bigger threat than Trump because he doesn't have all the obvious baggage that Trump has, especially since, the end of Trump's administration and the ugliness of the post-election period. So DeSantis doesn't have that baggage that Trump does, and Democrats have seen him as vulnerable. However, now, strangely enough, Trump is, depending on how you look at it, Trump is running to the left of DeSantis, or DeSantis is running to the right of Trump with hardcore positions on abortion, limiting it to 6 weeks in Florida. On the issue of vaccines, there's a big dispute between them about the approach, and some other areas where Trump is trying to, believe it or not, depict DeSantis as an extremist, and that he's actually more centrist, which is, boy, Mark, we've seen it all when Donald Trump is positioning himself as a centrist, even though he does support a lot of policies that if they could clear away his personality from their view, Democrats would see that he actually does agree with them on some things. But DeSantis, I think one of the things DeSantis has to press is his competence. And I point to his handling of the most recent hurricane, Ian. He was given high marks, even by Joe Biden, for his competence in handling the aftermath of that hurricane. He has got the state solvent. He's built up a huge majoritarian Republican presence in Florida. And so I think he can't be counted out if he can make his competence and his policy differences with Trump, which he thinks will help him. He thinks it'll help him that he's more anti-abortion than Trump, that he stood up to the vaccine mandates, whereas Trump basically calls himself the father of the vaccine. So it's all a big jumble as to how it's going to play out because there's still so many X factors, not the least of which is Trump's continuing legal entanglements.
So DeSantis down but not out. We'll see how that goes. Tim Donner, thanks ever so much for joining us today.
It's just too much fun, Mark.
Take care. Bye. We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides. Entertaining, informative, and just plain fun. Watch Liberty Nation's The Conservative 5. Produced by conservatives for conservatives. C5's The Left Free Zone. Hosted by Liberty Nation's Lisa K. Donner. Joined by a raucous, irreverent panel of authors. Deconstructing leftist narratives. Debating the hot topics. And remembering to laugh. Join the official conservative safe space.
You only did that to piss Jeff off.
Liberty Nation's The Conservative 5.